Welcome back. Over 1,000 people are on the road to wellness. Many have been training this summer for an annual 5K race in Roxbury, part of a collaboration between the Dimmick Center, Hood Fit, and the Boston Athletic Association. The ultimate goal is to inspire mind, body, and spiritual health through fitness and exercise.
And bicycling.
Runners preparing for the 9th annual Road to Wellness 5K, getting a special visit from world-class athletes earlier this summer.
We see these athletes on TV, we see them, traveling all over the world, but they're all here and people can actually see them, that they're human, that they breathe, they eat just like we do. However, they have a different level of dedication.
Boston Marathon winners Helen Obiri and Benson Kipruto, along with the defending BAA 10K champion Leonard Corrier and world champion Edna Kiplagat, coming out to the Dimmick Center in Roxbury in June to share their expert advice.
What happens if you wake up and your body's just aching and you're just cramping?
You are really prepared for a race, but you find your body or your mind is not ready. Just relax, compose yourself.
Road to Wellness 5K started about a decade ago when Thaddeus Miles, a community organizer, was faced with a troubling statistic.
I was reading about how Roxbury has a different life expectancy of 58 in the Back Bay, which I could throw a baseball from here to there, has a life expectancy of 91. So what was creating that 33-year difference, which was a lot of medical issues? And so I felt like one thing that we can do and we can do for free is be able to run and move our bodies.
Over 125 people took part in the first 5K throughout historic Roxbury, with neighbors throughout the community cheering them on.
We always talk about what we can't do. Black people don't run, but we run, and we run well. And the question is, do we feel like we're in a safe space to be able to do it?
From 126 registrants to now close to 1,000 participants. And here to talk to us about the growth and impact of the Road to Wellness are Dr. Charles Anderson, he's president and CEO of the Dimmick Center, and Suzanne Walmsley, the Youth and Community Engagement Director for the Boston Athletic Association. Welcome to you both. Dr. Anderson, we heard that from Thaddeus that people need a safe place to run, that is both physically and psychologically. What is Dimmick's role in providing that safe space?
Well, I can tell you, Dimmick has a significant role when it comes to this on a number of dimensions. One, we're hugely involved with advocacy for the community. It's not just about what we provide within our walls at the Dimmick Center, it's the work we also do outside of the walls of the Dimmick Center. Tell people really understand when we think about what really contributes to good health and wellness, that we do have to think about those things in our environment. We do have to make sure we're doing those things to make sure that people have similar access to the type of resources to lead to a healthy enough lifestyle to avoid hospitalizations and everything else. But the other part that's critical about that is the way that we actually create a counter narrative to many of these concepts like black folks don't run.
Suzanne, HoodFit was a grassroots effort that first put this race on. Why did the BAA get involved?
Right. We were very grateful for the invitation to join along this journey. When we look at what Thaddeus was trying to accomplish with the HoodFit 5K, it really aligns with the mission and vision. The BAA is a nonprofit that was founded in 1887, and our mission is to help promote a healthy lifestyle through sports, especially running, and we envision a world where all people can access and benefit from running in an active lifestyle. So the mission and the vision aligned, and this event is just a really nice way to bring that mission and vision to life.
And tell us how this evolved and how it helped to launch the Boston Running Collaborative and why it's important for you to partner with Dimmick and HoodFit on this event.
Absolutely. So we've identified really three key components to a successful community engagement, and one is having a trusted member of the community to bring people together and advocate for what the community wants and needs, which we had in Thaddeus. You need a convener that's a trusted institution within the community itself, which we have in the Dimmick Center, and then the specialist. And so we really come in and play the role of the specialist in terms of how to put on a road race and some of the key components there. And so that's been our role. And it's something that's benefited us in ways that we hadn't anticipated. There were things that we hadn't seen that we learned through this participation. And things like the life expectancy difference and also just the barriers to access. And so one of the things that has been key for us is having these conversations and making those connections through this race. And that we started the Boston Running Collaborative from that. There are really two quotes that I keep in mind every day with the work that I'm doing, and one is from Maya Angelou, "When you know better, do better." And then the other one is from our wonderful Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley.
Sure. Yeah.
Is that when the people closest to the pain should be closest to the power.
Dr. Anderson, the start and finish line's on the Dimmick campus, but the Road to Wellness is really more than a run. It's tell us about the Health and Fitness Pavilion at the event.
Well, you know, it's a wonderful opportunity for us to bring together partners who are part of this essential work to make sure that access is equitable. And so with a variety of partners, we really take over a part of our campus, and it's a wonderful block party in many ways. But it's really a party with a purpose, because we make sure that there are partners there that are engaging with community in a way to connect people with the types of resources to improve health and wellness.
This is the 9th year, Dr. Anderson. Have you seen any long-term health benefits or changes in people that are participating?
I mean, I could tell countless anecdotal stories of individuals who've gone from the couch to actually running the full Boston Marathon.
Yes.
Who actually, when they go back home, their relatives are asking them about what they did, and how now they have their nieces and nephews who are out thinking about this. And that's why I talk about this element of the counter narrative. Do you know that in 1880, a gentleman by the name of Frank Hart, you know Frank Hart? Know Frank Hart?
This is a quick history lesson.
These are the stories we have to tell. Frank Hart in 1880 won what was then the 6-day race. African American, most celebrated, not only African American athlete of the time, but most celebrated athlete of the time. These are the stories that aren't told in school, which allows many of us to believe that we don't participate in things like this.
But we actually do.
But we actually do and always have.
Dr. Charles Anderson, thank you for that history. We'll have to look that up. Suzanne Walmsley from the BAA. I would be remiss if I did not mention at this time that Channel 5 is the official media partner for the Boston Athletic Association. Everybody, the Road to Wellness kicks off at the Dimmick Center in Roxbury on Saturday, September 9th at 9 a.m. Free registration is open through the morning of the event, and the link to sign up is on our website at wcvb.com/cityline. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Have a great afternoon.